Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 2022. Happy New Year to all our shareholders and stakeholders. On January 18th, 2022, my name is Frank Candido. I handle corporate communications for NuRAN Wireless Inc. And I have with me today Francis Letourneau, President and CEO, and Jim Bailey, CFO of NuRAN Wireless Inc. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Frank. Happy New Year, successful 2022 for our shareholder, our clients, and their family.
Yes, thank you, Frank. We're looking forward to a big year ahead.
So we're going to discuss 5 topics today. So we'll try to make it as brief as possible, and in no particular order. But why don't we start first with the obvious? You announced today, Francis and Jim, another financing for $9 million or 8 million euros. So in conjunction with the previous debt financing that you announced previously of $15 million, we're at about 24 million that we've announced in 2 financings. And there's obvious reasons why this is important. So maybe you want to run through a little bit on these financings and then, just touch on the significance of these financings and what they mean for the company going forward.
Okay, well, we've been keeping shareholders up to date on our financing efforts. We announced, last year, the bank financing in Cameroon with Afriland First Bank. And we've talked about how Cameroon was a smallish deal, but really DRC required much more in the way of capital. And so we shifted our focus when the Cameroon deal was done to a bigger financing. And this deal, the 24 million US, as you mentioned, was something that we were able to agree and come to terms with very quickly. It's a part of a 30 million financing. And so, as we said in the announcement, we need to bring another 6 million of equity, which we're in the process of talking to people about just now. This financing was unique. It was coming from some development finance institutions. It was a very specific amount with some very specific criteria. Very good criteria, I might add. It's a very good interest rate, as you see we announced, and good terms as far as capital repayment, length of time we can draw down the funds, and the overall term of the loan. And it was for a set amount. So there were some criteria we had to meet. We said, okay, there's $30 million. Let's see how we can spend that. And so what we did is we took phase 2 of Cameroon. So we'd financed phase 1 already with Afriland. Phase 2 of another 120 sites we allocated to this financing. And then we said, okay, how much more can we do of the DRC project? And so there's 850 sites for DRC out of the total of 2,000. And that's what this financing will allow. With very conservative commercial assumptions, I might add, very conservative build assumptions and rollout, but we know that we can achieve these minimal targets, and we actually expect to exceed those by some margin. So it gives us a lot of, it sets the base. It proves that we've got a bankable model, the NAS model, which the company came up with a couple of years ago, and Francis has been the main engineer of and has taken the message out to Orange and MTN in South Sudan, has resonated with those operators. They like the model for what it does to them commercially and the ability to roll out networks in rural areas. And banks like it because of the guaranteed minimum fees and the terms of the projects and the way that we work alongside the MNO and share revenue. And so this was a major step for us in taking the business and the NAS model further.
So Francis, maybe you want to comment, but it seems to me that being able to go out and get this financing done that you and Jim have done here recently, does this not help you in terms of booking future business, showing that these deals are bankable and that NuRAN, the size of company NuRAN has the ability to go out and get the financing to roll out the deals?
Absolutely, Frank, you're bang on. So since we started announcing those financing, even starting with the Afroland First Bank credit facility that we announced in November, December, we started receiving calls from operator. So we're no longer in a, I would say, cold call position. We're just simply receiving calls, and we're starting to engage into building proposals and everything. So yes, operators have a massive demand to connect rural, not only for getting a significant piece of the business, but also to cover their regulator obligation or their license obligation. Because when they get a license, they have an obligation to cover X amount or X percentage of the country, which they don't do today, but they prefer to pay the fines of the penalties of that license instead of investing. We're bringing a complete a fantastic opportunity for them to cover those areas and fulfilling the requirements of the license that they have with the regulator. So it's a massive demand from the operator, and it's the reason why you have those RFPs upcoming with the MTN and Orange, and there will be some other ones coming in.
Okay, well, that brings us to the next topic. Thank you both for that. I think that was pretty clear. We've turned the corner. We're entering a new phase for the company, which is pretty exciting, and it's called revenue, which we're starting to generate from the rollouts that we have achieved to date. And so maybe Francis or Jim, whoever, maybe you want to comment on what that's going to look like going forward and why this is so exciting for us.
I will start quickly and let Jim comment on what I'm bringing and what it will mean in terms of turnaround from the company. So we now have, I think, 6 + 38, 44 site under the NAS. We also have the site in Ghana, but they've been done under contracts with GSMA, which is a CapEx funding projects that we had with these guys, but 44 sites generating a lot of traffic. So one thing to clarify is that we have something on average 90,000 people connecting to our network every day. We have reached a peak of 1,000 users on our network. A user, by the way, Frank, when we say a user or a subscriber, your telephone come with a SIM card. This SIM card has a number, and when the number is tied into our network, it becomes a somebody spending minutes on our network. So we're getting revenue from the usage of this connected device. The cool thing and what we've announced last week is that based on our current financial model and what has been presented to the DFI as part of the 24 or 30 million debt package or loan package that we are building, or financing package that we're building, we were only expecting for the first 6 to 8 quarters to charge the minimum guaranteed amount. So the data that we've seen so far is showing almost double that amount in terms of revenue. Just from the 32 site, we're now reaching 2,300 in revenue on average per month per site. So it's almost double what we were expecting in the first few quarters of the lifetime of the project. So Jim, maybe you can comment on what is going to be the impact on the financial of this thing.
Yeah, well, and one of the things we always had to do, and with talking to the lenders, was put together a conservative bankable business plan. And so we had to take the very conservative assumptions, and we worked with Orange, we worked with MTN to get their views. But there were still question marks. One was penetration, how quickly we add subscribers to the network and how quickly we start generating those revenues. And then, as Francis said, we had that guaranteed minimum threshold, which we talked about before. It averages about 1,000 per site. And then we share the revenue up above that. The question is, how long until we surpass that guaranteed minimum and generate the revenue share? And if we were, let's say, just not even generating enough to cover the guaranteed minimum, the mobile operator wouldn't be happy. we wouldn't be happy because we're not generating the right amount of revenue. But we had these, until we took sites live, I mean, all of us on the team have experience. We've been working in the mobile industry. We know what these parameters look like. But until you actually bring sites live, you don't know for sure. And so this has been a huge proving ground for us. And as Francis said, we had several quarters, sometimes up to 8 quarters, 2 years. We said before we would hit that target penetration, and we're talking target penetration rates of 20 to 25%. Which, again, is also very conservative. So we had to put together a bankable plan, a plan that the company could manage. We didn't want to overdo it in terms of debt load. It's something that we have to think about, being able to service the debt, being able to meet our debt covenants. And so we had these conservative estimates, but now in the space of, the 3 months since we've had our first site live in Cameroon, and new sites coming on all the time, we're just seeing this real explosive growth. I mean, it just shows the pent-up demand for these areas, which everybody theorized and thought, and we're seeing it come true. So what it's going to mean for our business plan and these fundings is, we'll be able to meet our covenants with no question. Second, we'll be able to generate more cash than expected. And third, what that means is potentially build more sites and accelerate the build, and use that to continue to fund the contracts that we have, but also to attract new contracts and use that funding to raise more money, to grow faster and to achieve our objective. We still want to hit 10,000 sites under contract. We're about a quarter of the way now. We've got almost 3,000 sites under contract. We'd like to get to 10,000, and we see a way to do that now. And this is really step one on the path to do that.
What I find,
and the other thing, sorry, Frank, and the other thing to mention there is the fact that we're expecting to turn EBITDA positive in 2022, probably around the end of the year. But we're with those numbers, we're now thinking that we can achieve way better financials than what we were expecting at the beginning, which is a good thing. And another point is that the rollout, when these announcements also shows, and we have a live site count on the website, the last Cameroon pace have shown that we can deliver up to 30 sites a month with only a few teams from Sagemcom, our partner. So we can go really fast, and having a couple lined up like this, and it will be the same in DRC. Once everything's cleared out, custom cleared and everything, we can then roll out. We have, as we shown in the last financial statement, we've shown that we have assets in country or inventory in country ready to go out in the field and be built. So just wanted to point that out, Frank.
okay, well, what I find incredible is it was always my opinion that we needed to achieve a certain critical mass in terms of proving a lot of things, proving our ability to roll out, proving the metrics on the rollouts and subscribers, et cetera. And obviously, more importantly, and most importantly, proving the numbers that we're showing in terms of what we think we're capable of generating based on the contracts we have, already booked. And what's really incredible is that we're able to go out and get this debt financing, and we don't even have what I thought would be the minimum amount of sort of critical mass to demonstrate these things, which means that you're right. I think there is a massive pent-up demand. I think people do believe that this will be a no-brainer in terms of the subscription rate for each of these sites, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, like, it's going faster than I thought, which leads into the next point. It's sometimes easy to forget because, there's obviously pressure is put on the company constantly, and mostly to do with the share price. And we'll get to that a little later. But, people seem to forget how much the company's achieved in the last, 12 to 16 months. And so maybe you want to just touch upon that for our current shareholders, or maybe people looking at the company for the first time. I mean, there's been a lot that's happened in the last, number of months, and maybe you just want to summarize that, just to keep things in perspective.
Yeah, I like it. And by the way, we will be updating the deck. It will be available with new slides showing that up front, and we will probably have a specific web page to demonstrate that. But since September 1st, 2020, so 16 months behind us, 2,500 sites under contracts with top tier MNOs in Africa, namely Orange and MTN. We have raised commitment for financing up to 43 million. We went from 6 employees up to 46. So, and we are also accumulating sites. We are showing right now with the sites live 45.6% penetration rate, and on and on and on. So Frank, we will be showing all of this information and all the achievement we've done over the last couple of months. And it's extremely important, especially for new eyes, because a lot of people have done their due diligence, and when they hear about financing, they say, great, now it's a bankable, now it shows that they tick all boxes. But for the new eyes on the stock, they say, why is financing such a big news for these guys? It's just because we've done those contracts, we've pulled together the financing, and now we're ready to go and roll out. And we have even financed and rolled out sites already. So it just shows the achievement that we've done over the last 16 months. It's huge. It's huge for a newly born company. It's a huge achievement that the team has done. It's not only me, it's Jim, it's Gael and his team. It's the local teams on the ground in DRC and Cameroon, because we have 46 employees, 6 or 8 in Cameroon, 6 or 8 in DRC, same thing. So we are dressing a new world for bringing that connectivity around the globe, and starting with Africa.
And just to add to that too, Francis, we've had we've had conversations. I mean, we sat down together. You remember in September, we said, okay, how are we going to finance this? We talked about a project type financing, a debt finance, where you use the cash flow from the projects to pay the debt. That's what we were able to set up. Mm-hmm. We had discussions with equity investors when we did the private placement, debt providers. Since then, we've heard the word like startup. You're a startup, which we're not really. There's a massive installed base of NuRAN equipment out operating in multiple countries globally. Mm-hmm. Then I heard words like, wow, this is the holy grail. We don't believe you. We don't think it's doable. So we hear all these kind of messages over these last 16 months, but we've been able to prove it. And now I think, as we've said, hitting that revenue milestone, having some KPIs and some real performance measures, it kind of brings it all together. And this financing proves it as well, because not only are we able to convince ourselves and our shareholders, but we're able to convince providers of debt, mobile operators, etc. So it's been a great ride, and we will still continue. Lots more to come.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on then to ESG. For those, most people know, because it's a topic that's discussed often: environment, social, and governance. What's NuRAN doing to be recognized as an ESG investment?
If you look at the DNA of the company, we are an ESG potential investment, but we need to have our ratings along those lines. So we are progressing, and we've hiring a consultant to bring that ESG rating for the company. It has been part of the information memorandum that was built to bring this debt package from the DFIs. Not demanded at this stage, but for the next round, it will potentially be a good box ticked having this ESG rating. So it's important for us to get this. It has to be part of our DNA, everything to do, and our governance policy. So we're hiring people to get to that point. They will start on the process next week. So NDAs have been signed, a proposal have been received, and we will get to that point really soon. And we will have also push from the different DFIs across the globe that have interest in NuRAN to get that ESG rating if we want to to have the criteria met from NuRAN perspective. Jim, you have any comments on top of what I'm saying?
Well, you're right. I mean, certainly on the environmental front, you know, the fact that we're using, you know, renewable solar energy, minimal footprint. I mean, we're really capturing the trends of the day, and equipment that can be upgraded remotely to higher bandwidths and so on. You know, software-defined networking. So we tick a lot of boxes, as Francis said. It's in the DNA of the company. And you touched on the point that it is a requirement of the development finance institutions financing. So we wouldn't have got the financing had we not been compliant. And now it will just help us further that. But it's, you know, it's a key initiative of the company. And going where we are in rural areas, we have to be nimble and compliant with all of these things. That's really the core of how the model is delivered too. So it's a big initiative for us this year, definitely.
Okay, so why don't we end this video on a topic that brings upon us a lot of frustration. I mean, I was just looking at the stock, and you know, we trade sufficient liquidity, which is, you know, an important aspect of any stock that's tradable. So liquidity has not been really a problem, especially given that we trade on a second-tier Canadian exchange. And if you look at our stock chart, the stock looks like it wants to break out to the upside, but somehow we seem stuck in the mud with the stock price. I don't get it. None of us get it. And we certainly think our valuation is not reflective of what we should be valued at. So I don't know, do you want to comment on that? I know this is a touchy subject. We constantly get, you know, messages, emails from shareholders in frustration. And, you know, when things are going that way, you can blame it on all sorts of reasons, but we certainly don't think it's because of, you know, not delivering from the point of view of the company delivering on fundamentals at this stage anyway. So, what do you want to comment on this at all?
Yes, I will. I will comment. I will not comment on if I'm frustrated or disappointed of the stock price. The only thing I would do, and this is something that we will do in the next couple of videos, giving market insights. So we have run through numbers, and actually in the valuation of the model, in order to potentially raise equity at the African holding level, we were looking at summaries and reports from the industry for the multiplicator or the multiplication factor of companies similar to NuRAN. Of course, we do not compare to those guys because we're early stage, but if you look at the multiplication factor from the tower company, it ranges between 8 and 29 times EBITDA. MNOs are trading 5 to 7.5 times EBITDA. So let's just shoot for an example that the NuRAN is able to achieve the 250 million based on 10,000 sites with 125 million EBITDA, and do your math. Pick a number between 5 and 29. And then you get your valuation. So we should be sitting somewhere in the middle, because it's really, I would say the gross margin and the EBITDA will be extremely high. It will be a cash generating type business model. So that should lead to a pretty big multiplication factor. From a stock price point of view, we're trading on the CSE, as you know. It's who buys and who sells that set the price. But from a company valuation perspective, when you have a foreseeable future, you need to look at the trends or the insights of the market and be able to figure out what the company valuation is going to be. And we have used those reports from HSBC or Deloitte to pinpoint the EV/EBITDA multiplicator. And we're coming with between 5 and 29. So let's say we're 15 times 125. So I think you have a calculator that can maybe the number of zeros will not allow you to get to that that end result. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just add to what you're saying. Okay, forget about the 10,000 sites. Let's just look at 3,000 sites, and let's look at the EBITDA based on what's real. Forget about what's coming, and we're confident it's coming. So, but that doesn't matter. But even if we were to extrapolate from what we've got, and certainly by demonstrating A, that we're able to roll out, B, that the numbers of subscribers are better than what the minimums are, C, that we're able to go out and get debt financing as we have been doing to roll out these sites. In other words, we're ticking all the boxes. So even if you were to use some type of multiple of what we have, the valuation makes no sense. So we're frustrated. We're all frustrated. It makes very little sense to us. We understand the frustration from some shareholders that, like to find any crack, something we're doing wrong, not doing fast enough. We dropped the ball. We didn't pick up the ball. Something we're all doing. The fact is, even with all that factored in, we should be trading at a multiple much higher than where we are now. And we think we will get there. It's just a matter maybe of a bit more time, but we're confident. So
and Frank, just look at the last press release, not the one this morning, but the last press release we've done. The numbers shown as the 32 sites have started picking up on the minutes and the revenues. If the math that is shown in this press release show $5.8 million of revenue yearly, not yearly, monthly, times 12. And then you multiply it by 0.5 to get to the EBITDA, and then you use this multiplication factor. You will get to a calculation that will show that it's much higher than this. But let's focus on the positive thing. I'm glad that you're bringing that up, but it's this last time we're talking about frustration and disappointment. Let's focus. Let's reach our objective. Let's achieve everything that we need to achieve. And at some point, the market will recognize that. Bottom line, we just need to be bang on to everything we want to do. Of course, sometimes COVID, sometimes this, sometimes that. Slow us down, but bottom line, we will get there. We're ready to rumble, as they say in the WWE.
All right. Well, listen, I think we've gone a little longer than we wanted to on this video. So why don't we wrap it up here? I just want to thank everyone for watching this video. If you have watched it or are watching it, we like to keep our shareholders up to date. We get a tremendous amount of text messages and emails, and I know that we don't answer them all because, sometimes we just cannot answer those questions for obvious reasons. But I think as a company, NuRAN has done a fairly good job of keeping its shareholders up to date, whether it's through these videos or the constant flow of press releases, which I think that, the company's had a lot of news and keeps generating a lot of news, and we can expect the same going forward. So on behalf of Francis Letourneau, CEO, and Jim Bailey, CFO, my name is Frank Candido. We welcome questions anytime or text messages, and we'll do our best to get back to you guys. But thanks, guys, and much appreciated, and happy 2022.
Thank you.
Same to you, Frank. Thanks.
Thank you.